The massive drop ship hovered silently over the surface of the Class 3 Deathworld. Its metal hull gleamed under the pale sun, reflecting the jagged mountains and dark forest below. Inside, the cadets were tense. They had trained for months for survival, combat, and teamwork, but nothing could truly prepare them for this. Their mission was simple on paper: survive, explore, and report back. In reality, it was terrifying. "Did anyone check the weather?" One cadet asked nervously, staring at the holographic map flickering in the cabin. The Deathworld's climate was unpredictable. Storms could appear in seconds, acid rain could fall without warning, and predators were known to hunt in packs larger than entire villages. Another cadet, a tall alien named Rilner, shivered. "This planet is insane. Our simulations didn't cover anything like this." From the corner, the human cadet leaned back casually against the wall, a faint smile on his face. "Relax. Looks like a fun spring break to me," he said, his voice calm, almost teasing. The other cadets stared at him, shocked. "Spring break?" one asked. "Are you serious? This is a Class 3 Deathworld." "Exactly," the human replied, shrugging. "Fun times ahead." His calm attitude made the others even more nervous. Was he crazy? Or just stupid? Either way, his confidence unnerved them. The countdown for the drop began. 10, 9, 8. The ship's engines roared as the airlock prepared to release the cadets into the unknown. Sweat ran down the foreheads of most cadets. They were experienced in zero-gravity drops and survival maneuvers, but nothing could match the reality of landing on a world designed to kill anything that touched it. 5, 4. The human stretched lazily, checking his gear without hurry. "I wonder what kind of monsters we'll meet first." The drop doors opened with a hiss, revealing the hellish surface below. Jagged cliffs, dark forests, and rivers of strange, glowing liquid stretched as far as the eye could see. Acid mist rose from some pools, and shadows moved unnaturally between the trees. A chill ran down every cadet's spine. Everywhere they looked, danger seemed to lurk. 3, 2, 1. The cadets jumped. Or rather, some fell. Panic gripped most of them as the planet's gravity pulled them down faster than expected. Screams echoed as they tried to control their descent, but wind currents, violent gusts, and sudden thermal shifts tossed them like rag dolls. The human cadet landed with perfect grace, rolling smoothly on the rocky ground and immediately checking his surroundings. He dusted himself off, looking around like he was walking into a normal park on Earth. "Not bad," he muttered. "Nice little spring landing." The other cadets were not so lucky. Rilner crashed into a rock formation, groaning as he struggled to get up. Another cadet, a small and timid alien named Kira, was caught in a gust of wind and nearly swept into a pit of glowing liquid. A few barely managed to land, covered in dirt and bruises. The human didn't rush to help immediately. Instead, he scanned the horizon with a careful eye. His training had taught him that rushing in blindly was as dangerous as the predators themselves. Then, seeing the struggling cadets, he moved. In moments, he helped stabilize Rilner, pulled Kira to safer ground, and guided the others to a small ridge. "You see," he said, smiling faintly, "spring break isn't so bad if you take it slow." The cadets muttered complaints and curses, but they couldn't deny that the human had saved them. Their fear began to mingle with respect and a hint of disbelief. Suddenly, a shadow moved across the ridge, something massive, fast, and unseen, watching them from a forest. The cadets froze, their hearts pounding. The human turned slightly, eyes narrowing, yet his voice remained calm. "Looks like we got company." A roar split the air, sending a shiver down every spine. It was not loud, but deep and resonating, like the planet itself was speaking in anger. Trees bent under the force of unseen winds, and the air smelled of ozone and fear. The cadets glanced at each other, panic in their eyes. "Stay calm," the human said, stepping forward. "We need a plan. Always have a plan." He moved to a safer vantage point, scanning the forest line. Suddenly, a creature emerged. It was huge, with multiple limbs and teeth that glistened like crystal under the sun. Its eyes were sharp and intelligent, like it was calculating their every move. The cadets froze in terror. The human didn't flinch. He crouched, studying the predator's behavior. Then, slowly, he reached into his pack and pulled out a small, glowing device. With a few precise motions, he activated it. A pulse of light shot out, momentarily blinding the predator. It roared in frustration, but didn't attack directly. What did you do?" Rilner whispered. "Distracted it," the human replied casually. "Give us time to move." Using the moment, he guided the cadets across a ridge, keeping them low and quiet. Every step was careful, measured. He pointed out safe paths, weak spots in the terrain, and even edible plants that could sustain them. "Eat these if you're hungry," he said, holding out a small fruit-like organism. "Not toxic. Tastes weird, but you'll live." The cadets hesitated, but obeyed. They began to see a pattern. The human was invincible, but he understood the planet in ways they couldn't. He predicted danger before it happened, found resources where there seemed to be none, and kept a calm that was almost unreal. Hours passed. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the jagged landscape. The human found a small cave for shelter. It wasn't safe from everything, but it was better than staying exposed. He motioned the cadets inside, keeping the entrance clear for observation. As night fell, strange noises echoed across the forest. Scrapes, roars, and whispers carried by the wind. Some cadets clung to each other, too scared to sleep. The human sat by the cave entrance, sharpening a small blade, humming softly. "You're not scared?" one cadet asked, voice trembling. "Why should I be?" he replied, glancing up at the alien sky filled with twin moons. "Scared doesn't help you survive. Observation, patience, action, that's what helps." Even in the darkness, he radiated confidence. The cadets couldn't help but watch, some with admiration, some with envy. Suddenly, a distant roar sounded again, closer this time. The ground trembled slightly, and the shadows in the forest seemed to move with purpose. The human's eyes narrowed. He whispered, almost to himself, "Interesting. They're not hunting yet. They're studying us." A cadet peeked outside, gasping at the massive shapes moving just beyond the tree-line. The human put a hand on his shoulder, calm and firm. "They want to test us," he said quietly. "Let them. We'll show them why humans survive where others fail." The night stretched long. Every sound, every shadow became a challenge. The cadets realized they were not on a normal training mission. This was a real death world, and the stakes were higher than they had ever imagined. By the end of the first night, most cadets were exhausted, scared but alive. And they knew one thing for certain. The human cadet was unlike anyone they had trained with, calm in the face of terror, clever in the face of danger, and, strangely, almost enjoying the chaos. As dawn approached, the human stepped outside the cave. He looked at the horizon, scanning the dense forest and jagged mountains. He smiled faintly. Spring break. He muttered again, and for the first time, the cadets laughed nervously, but genuinely. The forest watched. The predators waited. And the human, calm, observant, and deadly clever, was already planning their next move. This was only the beginning. The first night had been long, tense, and full of whispered fears. By dawn, the Class 3 Deathworld seemed even more alive than before. Strange mists rolled through the jagged valleys, carrying scents the cadets couldn't identify. Every shadow in the forest hinted at unseen eyes watching them. The cadets were exhausted, muscles sore, and morale low. The human cadet, however, seemed fresh. He stretched, adjusted his gear, and checked the horizon as if he had slept in a comfy cabin back on Earth. "Time to move," he said calmly. The forest doesn't wait for anyone. The cadets groaned but followed. Some stumbled. Others argued about the best route. They had no idea what dangers lay ahead. Poisonous plants, deadly predators, sudden storms. The human, however, moved with quiet confidence, scanning the environment, pointing out weak spots in terrain, and keeping the group on high alert. "Look," he said, kneeling by a small patch of glowing moss. "This is edible. It will give you energy. Don't eat the red ones. They're toxic." The cadets were amazed. "How do you know that?" one whispered. "I read, I observe, I survive," he replied simply. "You learn." The forest around them was alive with movement. Vines twisted unnaturally. Rocks shifted slightly as if pushed by unseen hands, and small creatures skittered across the path. The cadets were tense, but the human remained calm, his eyes sharp and observant. Suddenly, a shriek cut to the air, a high-pitched, chilling sound that made the cadets freeze. Something large was moving through the trees. One of the cadets, a young alien named Jex, stumbled backward. "Don't panic," the human said, stepping in front of the group. "Whatever it is, it's testing us." From the shadows, a creature lunged. Its body was thin but fast, covered in sharp scales that reflected light. Its jaws opened, revealing rows of dagger-like teeth. Most cadets screamed. Some ran, others froze. The human, without hesitation, grabbed a long, sturdy branch and swung it with precision. The creature hissed and retreated slightly, confused. Then, using a small device from his pack, he projected a short burst of light, dazzling it temporarily. "Move now," he commanded. The cadets followed his lead, retreating to higher ground. Their hearts pounded, but they survived the first encounter. As they caught their breath, they realized something important. The human wasn't just lucky. He was thinking faster, observing better, and acting smarter than anyone else. Hours passed as they navigated the forest. The human taught them basic survival techniques, which plants were edible, how to use shadows for concealment, how to read the movement of predators, and even how to conserve energy. Every lesson was practical, every action life-saving. They reached a river, its waters glowing faintly under the alien sun. The cadets were thirsty, but the humans stopped them. "Wait, the glow means something is in the water. Could be bioluminescent bacteria, could be something worse." He found a small device and tested the water, then smiled. "Drink now. Safe. Just taste a little first." The cadets followed his advice cautiously, realizing that every word he said could be the difference between life and death. As they traveled deeper, the forest grew darker, denser. Trees towered above, their branches twisting like serpents. The sounds of distant predators grew louder, more coordinated. Every step was a challenge. "Why does everything here want to kill us?" one cadet complained. "Because it can," the human replied simply. "Adapt or die. That's nature." Suddenly, one of the cadets, Rilner, tripped and fell into a pit hidden by thick foliage. His scream echoed through the forest. Without thinking, the human leapt forward, grabbing a sturdy vine and swinging down to pull Rilner out. The other cadets watched in awe. "You okay?" he asked casually. "Yeah, thanks," Rilner stammered. The human nodded. "We're not done yet. Keep moving." Minutes later, they stumbled upon something strange, a glowing, alien artifact half buried in the ground. Its surface pulsed with a soft blue light, and strange symbols glimmered across it. The cadets were curious, but also wary. "Don't touch it yet," the human warned. "Observe first. It could be dangerous." But curiosity got the better of some cadets. One reached out to touch it, and instantly, the artifact emitted a sharp pulse of energy. The ground shook, trees bent, and a low, vibrating roar echoed through the forest. Predators in the distance became more alert, their eyes glowing in the shadows. The human reacted instantly, pushing the cadet back and shielding him. "See? Observation first, action second." The cadets realized that the human's calmness and experience weren't just lucky. They were life-saving skills honed by practice, intelligence, and courage. As they moved on, the forest grew even stranger. Vines seemed to move slightly, closing gaps behind them as if the planet itself was watching. Strange, insect-like creatures skittered across the ground, some so small they were almost invisible, yet dangerous if stepped on. Suddenly, the sky darkened. Acid clouds rolled in and the wind picked up. The cadets panicked, unsure where to find shelter. The human scanned the terrain, then spotted a small rocky overhang. He led the group there, crouching low as acid rain began to pour. "This is nothing," he said calmly, pulling a cloak-like device over himself. "Keep your heads down. Wait it out. Storms like this pass quickly." They huddled under the rocky overhang. The acid rain hissed against the rocks, creating steam and a metallic smell. Some cadets whimpered, but the human remained composed, even teasingly joking about the spring break weather. Hours passed. Night fell again, and the predators came closer. Their roars echoed across the forest, shadows flickering in the mist. The cadets realized that survival wasn't just about avoiding predators. It was about learning, adapting, and trusting someone who understood the death world better than anyone else. Suddenly, a massive creature emerged from the mist. Its size was terrifying, limbs longer than any cadet's body, with claws capable of slicing through steel. It roared, a sound that shook the ground. The cadets froze. Most were paralyzed by fear. The human stepped forward, studying creature. He didn't draw a weapon yet. Instead, he observed its movements, predicting its attacks. When the creature lunged, he sidestepped effortlessly, using the terrain to his advantage. With precise strikes and traps he set earlier, he slowed the creature, confusing it enough that it retreated, snarling. The cadets watched in amazement. Their fear slowly turned into awe. They realized that the human was not just surviving, he was controlling the situation, even on a planet that seemed impossible to survive. As the night stretched on, the cadets settled into a tense but calm silence. They ate small rations, drank from filtered streams, and shared stories of past missions. The human remained alert, scanning the forest, noting every sound and movement. Finally, he addressed them. Listen, tomorrow will be harder. More predators, harsher conditions, maybe worse. But if you follow my lead, observe, and think, we survive. That's the only rule here. Survive. And maybe, just maybe, we thrive. The cadets nodded, some still nervous, some inspired. The human smiled faintly. Spring break isn't over yet. Get some rest. And as the mist rolled in and the predators whispered from the shadows, the cadets realized that this human, calm, clever, and fearless, was going to teach them the hardest lesson of their lives: how to survive where no one else could. This was just the beginning of the survival game. The death world was alive, dangerous, and unpredictable, and the human cadet was already proving that humans were not just survivors. They were legends waiting to be written. Dawn broke over the jagged landscape, painting the death world in dull red and gray. The cadets, exhausted from the previous day, moved cautiously through the twisted forest. The night had been alive with roars, rustling leaves, and distant screams of unseen predators. Most were wary, but the human cadet walked confidently, scanning every shadow and listening to every whisper of the wind. Stay close, he said calmly. The forest wants to test us today. Let's not give it the satisfaction of panicking. The cadets tried to keep pace, muscles sore and nerves frayed. Every step seemed heavier than the last. A thick mist hovered above the ground, hiding roots, pits, and alien predators. The human paused occasionally, pointing out safe spots, warning about unstable ground, or quietly directing the cadets around dangerous plants. Suddenly, the first attack came, not from a predator, but from the environment itself. Sharp vines shot up from the ground like whips, tried to grab at their legs. Screams erupted as cadets were yanked and thrown, some landing in shallow streams, others scraped across rocks. The human reacted instantly. Using a small energy blade from his pack, he sliced the vines with precision, freeing two cadets trapped at the rear. Watch your steps, he yelled. The planet itself is alive. Treat it like an enemy. The cadets stared in awe and terror. They had trained for combat and survival, but nothing could prepare them for a death world that attacked with trees, vines, and shifting terrain. Every movement required focus. Every step required intelligence. And the humans seemed to anticipate it all. Hours passed as they navigated through twisted groves and jagged rocks. Every moment brought a new challenge. Sudden sinkholes, acidic pools, and creatures that moved faster than any predator they had faced before. One cadet tried to lead the group off the safe path, but the humans stopped him with a firm hand. No, he said simply. You don't lead here. You follow observation, not arrogance. Later, a pack of small but vicious predators attacked from the shadows. They moved quickly, coordinated, their eyes glowing in the mist. Most cadets panicked, but the human had already anticipated their attack. He led the group into a narrow canyon where the predators could not surround them. Then, with careful placement of traps and quick strikes, he neutralized the attackers with minimal risk. The cadets watched, some with fear, some with admiration. One whispered, I don't know how he does it. He's like he's part of this planet. As the day wore on, the human guided the cadets to a small plateau overlooking a dark valley. From this vantage point, The forest below seemed endless, filled with movement and hidden threats. "We can't stay here long," the human said. "The predators are learning. They watch, they adapt. We need to keep moving or we become their prey." Suddenly, one of the cadets spotted movement near the valley floor. Something massive, even larger than the previous predator, was stalking them. Its limbs were long, powerful, and covered in armor-like scales. It roared, shaking the trees and sending birds, or whatever passed for birds here, flying into the air. The cadets froze, unsure how to react. "Everyone stay calm," the human said. "Panicking will get you killed. Watch and learn." He began giving orders, positioning cadets at strategic points, setting small traps, and using the terrain to their advantage. The predator lunged, but it found itself slowed by clever pits, tripwires, and quick maneuvers from a human. One cadet shouted in surprise as the creature stumbled. The human smirked faintly. "See? Strategy beats raw power every time." Hours passed, and the Deathworld continued its relentless assault. Acid rain fell, streams turned to mudslides, and predators attacked in waves. Every obstacle tested the cadet's skill, endurance, and courage. At one point, a cadet named Kira slipped and fell into a glowing pool. Screaming, she began sinking in the viscous liquid. Without hesitation, the human jumped in, grabbing her by the arm and pulling her to safety. The pool hissed, releasing steam as her fingers left the toxic surface. "You okay?" he asked, brushing mud from his uniform. "Why, yes, thanks to you," she stammered. "Don't thank me," he said. "Thank observation and quick thinking. That's what keeps us alive here." By midday, the group reached a strange area, a forest of towering, crystalline trees. The sunlight bounced off their surfaces, creating shifting patterns of light and shadow. The cadets were distracted, but the human remained vigilant. "These trees reflect light in a way that can confuse predators," he explained. "Use it. Move carefully, but don't stop." Just as they moved through the crystal forest, the apex predator of the valley appeared. Its eyes glowed a deep red, and every muscle in its body radiated power. It roared, the sound shaking the cadets to their core. The human didn't flinch. He whispered instructions to cadets, which paths to take, when to hide, and when to distract. Using the crystal tree's reflections, they created illusions, making the predator misjudge their positions. The creature lunged, smashing through crystal trunks, but the cadets managed to escape, following the human's carefully plotted route. One cadet looked at him with wide eyes. How are you so calm?" she asked. "Because fear is useless," he replied simply. "Cleverness isn't. Survival isn't about running from the strong. It's about being smarter than everything around you." The day turned to night again. The cadets were exhausted, bruised, and scared, but alive. They had faced predators, storms, and the hostile environment itself, and they had survived because of one human. As they made camp on a small rocky plateau, the human gathered the cadets. "Listen," he said, "tomorrow will be harder. The predators are learning. The planet is adapting, but so can we. If we stay clever, patient, and work together, we survive and maybe even thrive." The cadets looked at him, realizing for the first time that survival on this death world wasn't about strength or luck or training. It was about thinking, observing, and acting intelligently. Suddenly, a distant roar echoed across the valley. It was louder than anything they had heard before, and the ground trembled slightly. The apex predator had returned, and it wasn't alone. Smaller creatures followed it, stalking them like shadows. The cadets froze. Most were ready to panic. But the human stood calmly, eyes sharp, a faint smile on his face. "Spring break," he whispered. "Looks like the party's getting started." As night fell, the forest came alive. Shadows moved closer, unseen eyes watched, and the cadets realized they were part of a dangerous game. But now, they also realized something else. Humans could play and win, even when the odds were impossible. The human cadet lay under the stars, sharpening his blade and listening to the forest. Every sound was a clue, every movement a hint. He whispered to himself, "Interesting, they're learning. Let's see how clever they really are." And for the cadets, the lesson was clear. On this planet, survival wasn't given, it was earned. And the human who led them was teaching them exactly how to earn it. The dawn over the Class 3 Deathworld was not gentle. Mist rolled across jagged cliffs, and the forest below stirred with life. Predators, small and large, watched the cadets' every move. The human cadet stood at the edge of the rocky plateau, scanning the valley below. He had been planning this move since the first drop. The predators were learning, adapting to every trick he had used so far. Today, it would be a true test. "Everyone ready?" he asked, his voice calm, almost teasing. The cadets nodded, though fear lingered in their eyes. They had survived storms, attacks, and strange terrain, but this felt different. Something massive was waiting for them. "Follow my lead, observe and stay sharp," he said. Spring break is about to get interesting. Below them, movement stirred. Trees snapped, and the air vibrated as a massive apex predator emerged. Its size was enormous, with long, armored limbs and eyes glowing red like molten metal. Behind it, smaller predators slinked in the shadows, ready to attack in coordination. The cadets froze. "Stay calm," the human whispered. "They are testing us, not yet hunting. Wait for the right moment." The apex predator roared, shaking the trees and sending smaller creatures scattering. Its roar echoed across the valley, a sound so deep it made the cadets' stomachs churn. But the human did not flinch. Instead, he observed every movement, every twitch of muscles, every shift in the shadows. "Positions," he commanded. Cadets took spots he had already scouted. Some on high rocks, some hidden among twisted trees, others near traps set days before. The human placed himself at the center, where he could see every angle, every predator movement. The battle began. The apex predator lunged with terrifying speed, but the human had anticipated it. He rolled aside, using the terrain and a clever set of traps to slow its approach. Smaller predators attacked from the sides, but cadets, following the human's instructions, fought strategically. They used makeshift weapons, traps, and the environment to their advantage. "Not like this," the human muttered, dodging a swipe from a massive claw. "You want to play? Fine, let's play." He leapt onto a fallen tree, slicing a vine attached to a massive rock. The rock fell with precision, narrowly missing the apex predator, but cutting off a group of smaller predators. The cadets watched in amazement. Every move he made was calculated, efficient, and deadly clever. Rilner shouted as a smaller predator lunged at him. "Help! Use the reflection from the crystal shards," the human yelled. "Don't fight directly. Make them see what isn't there." Following his advice, cadets angled shards of crystal, confusing the smaller predators. They struck each other in frustration, giving the cadets openings to escape or attack. Hours passed. The battle seemed endless. Acid rain began to fall again, hissing against rocks and predators alike. Cadets were slipping, sliding, and bruised, yet they moved with purpose, guided by the human strategy. At one point, the apex predator trapped one cadet in a pit. The cadet screamed as the creature prepared to strike. The human acted instantly. Using a combination of tools, vines, and sheer quick thinking, he saved the cadet moments before the strike landed. "You see," he said quietly as the cadet scrambled to safety. "Observation and speed. That's survival." By midday, the battlefield was chaotic. Predators adapted to their traps. Acid rain made footing dangerous, and the cadets were exhausted. Yet, the human remained calm, alert, and creative. He noticed a pattern. The apex predator's attacks were strong, but predictable. "Follow my lead," he said to the cadets. "We can end this. Watch carefully." He baited the apex predator into charging a narrow canyon, where its size became a disadvantage. Using preset traps, the human guided the creature into a sequence of pitfalls, spiked rocks, and reflective surfaces. Every move was precise. Every attack was countered. Finally, the apex predator roared in frustration, realizing it was trapped, confused, and outsmarted. Smaller predators scattered, hesitant to continue without their leader. The cadets cheered quietly, some exhausted, some in disbelief. The human looked at them, smiling faintly. "Spring breaks over," he said calmly. "Survival isn't luck. It's observation, strategy, and patience. Remember that." The cadets, inspired and awed, realized the truth. They had survived the impossible. They had faced a Class 3 Deathworld, apex predators, deadly terrain, and environmental hazards, and they had learned how humans could not only survive but thrive where others might fail. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the valley quieted, mist rolled in again, predators retreated, and the forest seemed to sigh. The human gathered the cadets, who were bruised but alive. "Take note," he said. "This is how humans survive. Calm in chaos, clever in danger, strong in thought, not just muscle." The cadets nodded, their respect for him growing by the minute. They had seen firsthand what it meant to be human in an unforgiving world. A combination of courage, intelligence, and a strange sense of humor that made even the deadliest situations bearable. One cadet asked softly, "Are we really going to survive the rest of this planet?" The human looked at the horizon, twin moons rising above jagged peaks. "Survive," he said, smirking. "We're going to make legends." For the first time, the cadets laughed, tired but genuine. The forest around them watched silently. Somewhere, predators stirred, but the humans were ready. They had learned, adapted, and followed a leader unlike any other. And as the stars appeared in the alien sky, the cadets realized that this was not just survival. It was a story worth telling. They had faced the Deathworld, battled apex predators, survived storms, and learned from a human who turned danger into strategy, fear into action, and hopelessness into victory. This was the day the legend of the spring break human cadet began, a tale that would be remembered wherever humans went. The forest was alive, the predators watched, and the cadets, inspired and alive, knew one truth. Humans were a force of nature to be reckoned with, and their survival was more than skill. It was instinct, intelligence, and spirit combined. And as they set camp under the alien stars, the human smiled once more. "Spring break," he whispered. "Never felt so good."